What about SharePoint Designer? We actually get asked this question every release of SharePoint. That's okay. Here's what I'd like to, Here's what I'd like to talk about. There's an easy way to talk about what's going on with SharePoint Designer. This is a list of it's not every feature Nintex 2010 era products added to SharePoint 2010, but it's a long list. It's what Alberto and I brainstormed in 5 minutes. We filled a page. We figured this is good enough. The list is actually longer than this, but here's where I'm going with this. This is a long list of things Nintex adds to SharePoint's out-of-the-box value proposition. These are features that we add. This is the list of features that were added out of the box in SharePoint 2013 that we already had available. It's just a couple of things. It's a really, really, really short list. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's still on the table, and I'll flip this around in a second, but drag and drop and configure and draw at the same time. Okay, yep, SharePoint Designer added that. Guess what? You need Visio Professional for that. Standard isn't even enough. You must pay for Visio Pro for everyone who wants to enjoy this. Otherwise, this isn't really an added feature. Loops for each iteration, state machines. It should have always had that. In fact, it always had that in Visual Studio. It's finally in SharePoint Designer. We've had it for a long time. We now have infrastructure we can use that we don't have to do ourselves. We love it when fundamental improvements happen in the platform. It gives us more to work with. We're not worried about that at all. REST interop. Actually, that's good. That's actually really important, but it leaves SOAP interop and WebDev interop and other kinds of interop off the table. They weren't added, just REST. Now, REST is good. We love REST. But realistically speaking, you need a lot more than that. So it's really, really a short list of things that were added by SharePoint Designer. We're not worried about that at all, and you shouldn't be worried about that at all either. In fact, this is a more traditional way of talking about SharePoint Designer in context with Nintex. It got slightly better. You got looping, you got stages. You've got web services support, just REST, and you can draw and configure within SharePoint Designer. But let's get real about this. It's still an external client app. You need to deploy it to desktops even if there isn't a license fee for it. There is a license fee and a deployment cost to putting Visio Pro on the desk of everyone you want to be able to design visually. Without paying that, you're still creating workflows with a text or an outline-based design experience. There's no manageability. Actually, even with Visual Studio, there's no manageability built into the infrastructure. In fact, the new version of the Workflow Manager doesn't even have workflow history lists. The onus is on the workflow designer to come up with a logging facility there. Reuse, being able to create something like a user-defined action or a reusable component that can be added to the toolbox so that clever people can create something for business users to reuse over and over again. Can't do that in SharePoint Designer. You have to go to Visual Studio to create those. And if you've tried to use SharePoint Designer in the past, even when you add in Visio, it's not quick. There's a lot of clicking to do. There's a lot of work to do. It's not easy. It's not quick and easy. It's good that it's there, but because it'll help some people that aren't, that have zero budget, but it is definitely not workflow for everyone. It is definitely not the value proposition of Nintex workflow. This is that same list on the supposition that if we did absolutely nothing to improve Nintex workflow, that's a big if, we are doing plenty to improve Nintex workflow. But if we didn't, we would still be adding all of these things to SharePoint 2013, and it's a really, really, really long list. It's still worth it. That said, we are innovating on top of that. In fact, it's not about features. It's about value. So the key here is forget about counting features. This is about giving you a way to work in SharePoint from the start to the finish in your browser. It's a way of, another thing I can add to that is who's allowed to do what is not dependent on where you deploy software. Who's allowed to do what is dependent on permissions. It's organized, it's managed, and it's all browser-based. It's also designed to reduce the number of clicks you have to do to a bare minimum. We love being able to allow you to do things quickly and easily, and, well, there's actually no better way to put that. Also, you can manage the whole thing, track every workflow, report on things, analyze things. You definitely have a reusability story that doesn't require code everywhere, but if you want to do code, you can. And there are plenty of things we've added to allow you to connect to line of business systems, databases, web services, cloud web services, lots of things. And let's not forget about forms. We have a great drag and drop web-based design approach to forms that know about SharePoint, know about things like managed metadata, know about external data, know about SharePoint-specific things. And when they're deployed, they can be deployed anywhere on any device. This is all really good stuff. This is higher order value beyond just an abstract list of features. In fact, let's abstract it a little bit more to its core concepts. Look, Nintex workflow is about being quick and easy, about being pure SharePoint, and about being connected to everything. Workflow for everyone. This isn't just a marketing term. This is how we run our business. This is what we do. We are about workflow for everyone. That's what Nintex does. That's what we're doing for 2013. Compatible version right away, identical feature sets so that early adopters have something to upgrade to right now and we're not blocking them.